All right, cool.
Everything's recorded from this point on.
All right.
Your
Okay.
show, sir.
Um. Okay. Well, as I messaged you about before,
Hmm?
uh, I mean, when we were discussing what we're going to do on this podcast,
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about the research paper I did on the theory that I don't really know who pioneered this theory.
Hmm.
I've seen like three people talk about it ever, you
Yeah.
being one of them. So like I'm sure a lot of people have thought about it, but there's very few people who have actually like spoken to the validity of this theory
Hmm.
that autism and ADHD, schizophrenia, any schizotype
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, thing is on they're on opposite ends of the same spectrum. And I mean, I don't know. I've been able to find like a small handful of videos that touch on it.
Hmm.
Most of them being yours, I'd say, because like
Yeah.
I've seen like one JREG video talking about it.
And I
One,
was in it,
yeah,
which
and
was
you
funny.
were in it.
He put me in it. Yeah, because we had a conversation one time
So
about it.
did you like is your video like of you, JREG and Burger Craig, or is yours like the first one that talks about this theory? Do you know? Because I feel like
I let's see. That's the thing. As far as like actively talking about it, I would say I don't know, because I know that I was talking about it before JREG released their video, Autismophrenia.
yeah.
So obviously, because I had a conversation with them about it, right? But he had said that that was something that he had told me that that was something that was already rattling around in his brain for like a while, and I know I didn't even know Burger did one on that. I didn't even know that. But I had been discussing this for a little bit now. The person that introduced me to some of the ideas, or well, it was me and one other person that used to work with me, that and they were autistic, or are, doesn't just go away. But they me and them like sort of were hashing all kinds of ideas for a good while back and forth, and then slowly but surely we kind of just came to those conclusions. And of course, it was just all hypothetical, but we saw that there was plenty of just plenty of validity, plenty of evidence, plenty of lived experience from other people, ourselves, and such, that sort of made sense, kind of pieced a lot of this stuff together. Not enough for me to make any kind of declarative statements,
Yeah.
but enough for me to go, this needs to be looked into. This needs to be talked about. This is important. And it all came to that. Basically, it got to that point because I was more interested the main work I do is regarding schizoid personality disorder, but I was interested in like, what is that? How does it develop? What are the traits? And then I'm like, oh, wait, the traits are like this. They remind me of traits that schizotypal people have, and they have the negative symptoms of people that would be considered schizophrenia. But they don't have the positive symptoms. They don't have the hallucinations usually, not always, but there are moments of psychosis. But they usually don't have the like you had people that didn't have the positive symptoms of schizophrenia, but they had the negative symptoms. And then on top of that, they had kind of the odd behavior or odd internal behavior of like somebody that would be considered schizotypal, like odd idiosyncratic beliefs and things like that. And so then I looked into that, and then I started seeing overlap between a lot of the descriptions of something of people that are called schizoid and a lot of people that are referred to as autistic. And I started kind of seeing overlaps in certain types of behavior, certain types of motivation, and then I'm like, huh, there's something. What's going on here? And I started discovering that there just seems to be more people within the whole schizoid thing that either fall into autism or were diagnosed with autism or Asperger's, as it used to be called, high functioning autism, as they call it now, I believe. I think they're trying to get rid of that word because that's all like problematic too. And and then people that were on the schizo side of things were also being diagnosed schizoid later in life. And so that's why it made me investigate more and more into the subject on both sides, right? And I don't know. It just culminated into it. I mean, and I can you ask me questions about it. I can get it to the nitty gritty. Otherwise, I'll just be talking for like
Yeah.
an hour straight without letting you say a word. That's just so you know I do that. You need to tell me to shut up. So
No, no, that's good. Because I feel like I have some things in mind that I want to say, and
yeah,
I'm most interested in what you have to say in response to
sure, we can do that.
the things I have to say.
I'm down for whatever. I love talking about this stuff because I just the more people that are interested in it, the more it'll eventually advance itself. So
Yeah, I agree.
mhm.
So actually, the first time I ever heard about it was about a year and a half. Like I'm sure it was already after videos like that you had made had been posted about it. But
Mhm.
I was talking to my cousin Patrick, who he's an EMT. He has ADHD, probably autism, and he has a lot of like theories that I think, well, just a ton of theories that I think hold a shit ton of validity. And
Mhm.
he was talking about how ADHD and autism are like opposites in a lot of senses. And it was like a very brief thing. Like he talked about it for maybe like 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then like a few months later, I came across, uh, I think J-Reg's video first. And then I kind of went into a little bit of a rabbit hole, or maybe it was, I don't remember who it was first. And I started kind of like noticing in people and friends around me that everyone kind of fit into like a little box cognitively speaking. Like I was like my girlfriend at the time, her best friend, I noticed like was clearly like schizotypal or something on that end. And I'm not gonna like go sit there and diagnose her, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I told her about it. I was like, hey, look at all these like videos I've been watching. This like sounds like your thought process, and she's like, oh my god, yeah. And like that's kind of it. Like I'm not saying she's diagnosed, but like she was looking
Mhm.
into it. She was like, "Wow, yeah, this really sounds like me." And I was just like, "Wow." So at that moment, I just kind of started getting much more interested in that field, and also just kind of like carrying it around as my personal philosophy that no one else really understands
Mhm.
unless they understand that autism and abstract brains are kind of on opposite ends of the same spectrum. So anyway, last
Mhm.
year at the end of last school
I
year, I
usually just refer to it as like schizo-spectrum,
yeah.
because I'm kind of trying to take the I'm trying I want to take the word back. I want to take schizo back, essentially.
Yeah, I kind of got so used to just calling it abstract because like I don't really feel like like I'm usually explaining this to people who don't really know anything about it, and I don't
Oh, okay.
feel like
Well, I
explaining
would refer
what
to it. I usually refer to it as abstract and concrete
that
thinking.
no, that's that okay. That is normally what I do. I just
Okay.
I'm a little I'm not a night person, by the way, so my linguistic skills get a little muddier there.
Choppy. That's all right. Sorry.
Yeah,
That'll just make me not look as stupid. So that's good.
awesome. All right, so are you familiar with what gray matter and white matter is? In a
In the human brain?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So, and I'm just gonna like briefly explain it just for
Yeah,
anyone
yeah,
who,
for sure. For sure. Just go
and
over it. Let's set
so
up the
basically,
field.
I mean, if you got a neuron, you got like the cell body of the neuron, and then you got the axon, which is like the tail that transmits information. Gray matter is essentially the cell body that stores the information. It stores like it's responsible for storing concrete information in your brain, like specific dates, um, like anything that's just kind of like a specific piece of information, the color of the chair in my living room, anything like that. And then the white matter is responsible for connecting like all the like millions. I'm not even going to put a number on it because I have no idea. It's connecting all the different gray matter in your brain, and it's like kind of placing that concrete information into context with everything around you,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that makes sense. And so
It gives us the power of nuance and
yeah,
context.
exactly. And so I mean, I'm sure you already kind of see where this is going
Yeah, absolutely.
based on what I said.
Hmm.
Um, but basically, so this was a research paper for like a block in my which like a 1 month class in my junior year of high school,
Hmm.
and all of this is cited with like scientific articles. But that being said, I'm not a neuroscientist. I
Well,
know,
unless you're Doogie Howser, I mean, you're only 18, right?
yeah,
So
like
you're
I'm
good.
not,
Nobody knows that reference,
yeah.
Doogie Howser. I'm so old. Anyway,
Um, so basically, people with autism have higher volumes of gray matter in certain regions of their brain, specifically the specifically the orbitofrontal cortex. Oh wait, no, sorry, the anterior cingulate and the insula. And these regions of your brain are associated with like self-awareness, introspection, cost-benefit calculation, learning, sensory input. So a lot of things, all of those things are associated with autism in a sense. And that, and also the fact that people with autism have proven to have more like narrow white matter tracts in their brain, that kind of leads me to believe that some of the symptoms of autism may be a result of these brain abnormalities that are unique to people with autism as opposed to a control group. And
yeah.
then when you look at this research paper focused more on autism and ADHD just because there's much more information available on
Hmm.
those, but there's like a small portion on like schizophrenia. It's just that there's much more information available on ADHD. So
Yeah,
with
got it.
ADHD, adolescents with ADHD are shown to have lower gray matter volumes and higher white matter connectivity, and also same with both autism and ADHD. Um, the it- uh the like the persist like a persisting my
What are you
words
looking for? What are you looking for? I'll help you find
um,
it.
so the persistence in symptoms of ADHD
Hmm.
are associated with these white matter tracts not
Hmm.
uh not really normalizing in age. I'm butchering this.
It's all
I
good.
explained it much better on my
I like
burger,
steak.
but yeah. So children with ADHD had smaller overall brain volumes of gray matter, but
Hmm.
not white matter tracts. And
Yep.
adults whose ADHD symptoms persisted into their adulthood showed greater abnormalities. So
Hmm.
basically, if you're if the symptom severity kind of stays on an extreme as you become an adult, that's also correlated with these white matter tracts
Yeah,
staying.
yeah.
So,
I get the
okay,
gist of it. Yeah.
so yeah, that's basically the whole theory.
Interesting.
The
I'd like you to send me that when you can.
All right, I will.
I would actually like to read it.
This is like I have like a very short like notes for it on my phone that I was gonna read while I was explaining it, but I have like a 6-page thing that I can send you with all
Yeah,
this.
no, yeah, yeah. Just for fun, I want to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's just funny because I'm the one with ADHD and as well. So
yeah. But yeah, and then also one more thing is if you look at this is just like another slight correlation. If you look
mhm,
at the cortical thickness scans of brains with like all different like different types of brains, like you look at schizophrenia, you look at bipolar, you look at ADHD, they're all everywhere. Like they all affect cortical thickness everywhere in your brain. And then you
mhm,
look at things like OCD and autism, and they're extremely localized to very specific parts of your brain, which is also why like I think there's like neurodivergent and having a different type of brain like schizo and autism. And I
mhm,
think there's also disorders that may arise from that that like I think disorders like OCD
mhm.
lie more on the concrete end of the spectrum, and I think
Yeah, of course.
disorders like BPD are more schizo. But also, and this
I
whole like
could
theory that I have
kind of see that. Yeah.
this whole theory that I have, it actually kind of answers the question of why can people have ADHD and autism? Because I think that's like the first thing someone might point out as to why the whole
Mhm.
ADHD autism opposite ends of the spectrum
Wouldn't make sense.
really makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
because I've met people with that are more on the schizo side of things with ADHD and people that are more autistic on the ADHD side of things. Yes. So
if
I
you
mean that's pretty interesting. So you're saying that kind of that would kind of take care of that problem.
yeah, because if you can have like abnormal volumes of gray matter and also high white matter connectivity,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I see what
you
you're
can
saying.
only
That's
have
really
one or the other.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Wow, that's good shit actually.
yeah.
That's good.
I need to post that interview with Burger Craig, because we did that at like 10 in the morning, because I mean he lives in Germany obviously, and I explained everything really well. That was
It's all
I'm not
right. We'll just
usually that
pretend you
like
did. I don't
put
care. I
together.
mean, you don't have to explain things well to me. I can kind of piece it together. Remember, I'm the schizo. I'll be all right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Like, I can loose associate like crazy. I just have a pretty good handle on it. That's the only difference. So what did you want me to like? You just want my thoughts on it, or?
Yeah, I guess so. And I can just keep bouncing ideas off of your thoughts.
Sure. I mean, like, I think it's really interesting. It actually very much is something that should be investigated because I've been trying to figure out certain little aspects like that. Like one thing I've been trying to like parse out is where does ADHD play a part in all this, right? Why is it that you can have both, right? Why is it that? But you know what's really interesting? Another element of it that I think is really important is that, and you might be, you're definitely going to be interested in this, is that I think that similar to what you're describing regarding ADHD, I think it also applies to psychosis, or the elements that are understood to be or labeled as schizophrenia, the positive symptoms of schizophrenia. So things like hallucinations and delusions, or a propensity toward delusions, and an inability to basically push out these either auditory hallucinations like voices or visual hallucinations. From what I've seen, is autistic people with positive symptoms tend to have also sensory hallucinations. So it feels like someone's touching them, or something's in, like, feels like there's something in their arm when there's nothing there. Just feelings like that, or more auditory type hallucinations. And what's interesting is, because I've met people that have positive symptoms that are diagnosed autistic, and I've also met people that are positive symptoms that are diagnosed, well, just schizophrenic, or schizotypal, but with positive symptoms with schizophrenia or paranoid schizophrenia, right? What I notice is that something like schizophrenia and something like ADHD can exist in neurotypical people too. Of When I say neurotypical, I mean like not autistic, not schizo, right? And somebody can be neurotypical in almost every sense, except they might have positive symptoms, so they would be considered schizophrenic, right? And the way I think it functions is depending on the cognitive disposition of the person, the way something like ADHD or schizophrenia, as in the positive symptoms, manifests is going to be entirely different. So it's going to be based on their cognitive experience and what's intuitive to their thinking, right? So if you're autistic and with schizophrenia, you're going to have autistic hallucinations, or maybe OCD style hallucinations more, right? You're going to have hallucinations and positive symptoms related to more concrete thought and concrete concerns and worries and paranoias. It's going to be probably body fixation stuff. It's probably going to be sensory fixation stuff, delusions of dangers to your maybe body or your brain, or your ability to quantify or understand the world around you in a really kind of physical way. um and then, or obsessions with specific systems, and then kind of blowing that out of proportion, and then just becoming consumed by it, like basically just um you literally, it's the whole, you can't tell the forest from the trees, right? So it becomes like more honed in and more all encompassing. And then when you're talking about someone that's more on the side of abstract thinking, that's displaying or have these positive symptoms, they're going to be just, their concerns are usually going to be around like meta sort of. Sometimes it'll be spiritual concerns, sometimes it'll be really big concerns about the environment, like really big concerns about states, governments, nations, hidden groups, hidden things in the world that somehow are affecting you, or manipulating you, right? Like the microplastics are, in my brain or something, and they put it there on purpose, and like that the type of paranoia and the type of positive symptoms that are going to develop are going to kind of run in conjunction with that. Now, if you had what I think what would be what's the word, when I say between abstract and concrete, I usually say, and I got this word from that friend we used to talk, equidistant. So when you have an equidistant person, or what we consider to be neurotypical, their positive symptoms are going to be more social and interpersonally focused. So it's going to be like
Huh.
people, my friends are after me, my parents, my family, my teacher, my. It's going to be more concentrated on that sort of stuff. That's my theory. And so depending on your kind of default setting when it comes to cognition, you're going to have a very different kind of schizophrenia, or at least the way it manifests. And I think ADHD might do the same thing, right? So if we're with ADHD, like you were mentioning, we're talking about a specific part of the brain that isn't necessarily running in conjunction with either autism or the schizo side of things. Then there might be something. I think there's something similar going on when it comes to these forms of psychosis. I think that's why even a person that's never had positive symptoms can develop it in, say, like an isolation chamber or things of that nature. There's like a propensity. There's something already in the human brain that can allow that mechanism. It's just more easily accessible to somebody with a certain neurological like disposition or something, right? So that's why it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that there could be this correlation regarding ADHD. I don't see why it wouldn't exist for something like psychosis.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
think
anyway, sorry.
part of what made, I mean, I was realizing this as you were talking, but definitely one of the biggest things that kind of pushed me to this kind of thinking
Mm-hmm.
is that, I mean, I grew up with like autism and OCD. The OCD was absolutely debilitating. Like I could not really function because of it, because of my intrusive thoughts. And it wasn't like textbook ADHD. It was just like I'd want to swallow batteries. And so I couldn't be around
Wait,
batteries.
OCD you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's because you just
And
said ADHD. It threw me off.
oh no, sorry.
No, it's
OCD.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It would just be like weird impulses that like would just
yeah.
be intrusive.
But they would basically interfere with my everyday life because I would find a way to sabotage anything I was doing by finding something that could ruin my life in it, and then I would like get the urge to do that. And then
Interesting.
when I was about 15, I started smoking weed, and I went down like a really bad path where I was just like using a bunch of drugs, and then I kind of like pulled myself out of it and started to use them in a sense to medicate myself, and I noticed that pretty much every like okay, not every, but any I think I'd say any drug out there that's not like a stimulant or a depressant, like any type of hallucinogen, it
Mhm.
kind of like pushed my mind into the opposite of how it's hardwired. Like my default
Oh yeah,
cognition
yeah. I've had
is,
this conversation before. This is interesting. I see where you're going.
yeah, it's like my default is autism, and just like how if someone with autism has schizophrenia, their default is still autism, but in that autistic mindset,
Hmm.
and let's say you're tripping on acid, everything is like everything is very abstract, and it kind of becomes the opposite. And I think that's also like part of the reason why, I mean, someone with schizophrenia cannot take acid because they're already too much into that end.
Well,
And I mean,
I know plenty of people that do that
yeah,
are
that's why
schizophrenic.
the
No,
sex,
what's really interesting is and of course I'm not condoning any of this out there,
yeah,
the listeners, but all of this is in Minecraft. So I've spoken to people. Okay, so these are my thoughts on hallucinogens. I think that what a hallucinogen or certain types, specific types, especially if you're talking about something like, shrooms and LSD and stuff like that, um, I think it accesses or allows the human brain to access parts of itself that is outside of its like kind of sort of default setting.
yeah,
It maybe expands or retracts or affects certain types of what's it called um, synapses and so on, and it'll basically open doors to parts of your brain that are normally kind of in the unconscious or normally are just not really like easy to access. Like for example, um there's people that aren't on that kind of abstract intuitive side of things or the schizo side that or equidistant people that do things like drugs, or they do things like spiritual matters or meditation in order to put themselves in those states,
yeah,
right? to put themselves to feel like they're a part, like they could see more of the meta and feel it and stuff. And so what's interesting is that I've spoken to people that are on the schizo spectrum that have taken stuff like that, and it's kind of, this is the bad part because this can become like addictive in and of itself. They feel like more comfortable because then they feel like the things they're experiencing and seeing are like a little more under their control even. And then I've also heard people that say have trouble connecting socially to other people on like a conventional level, like a more like a conventionally understood type of social. They'll take a hallucinogen, and if they're autistic or if they're kind of on the schizo spectrum and just feel disconnected from people, they'll start feeling like more socially connected to the people around them
Yeah.
because they're in that state, right? So I feel like they're hitting parts of the brain that are normally would require a specific amount of mental effort to even be able to achieve. It's just kind of like a catalyst for it. That's why it's really funny to me when I hear like a an equidistant person. I say equidistant, but it's probably easier for me to say neurotypical. When I hear a neurotypical person talk about like their experience on something like LSD, sometimes I just go like, that's it, like what they realize right
Yeah.
during their high, like their big revelation they got regarding like, oh, it really changed my life, I saw this thing or experiences where I was able to see this thing and I can't quite get it back. And then when they try to describe it to me, I'm just like, that's like all the time for me, like that's just how I think, like my
Yeah.
brain just does that. Like the whole conversation about, oh, I could see like how things are connected and it felt like normal and natural, and it felt like I could like figure out what's connected to what when I was like, tripping. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? So like it was just kind of amusing to me, like that it was that experience. And it just sounds like all they're doing is kind of thinking a little bit like a schizo for that small period of time. And who knows, maybe autistic people can use like hallucinogens to experience kind of other facets of their brain that are maybe a little more locked in,
Yeah.
um which is kind of cool because I'm a big proponent of metacognition. So
Yeah, because I think part of the reason I find drugs so fascinating is, like you said, I mean, okay, so I think there's a time and a place and a certain job for everyone with a different type of mind. I mean, people with ADHD shouldn't be given Adderall and forced to do neurotypical things. People with ADHD should do ADHD things, things that they're good at that other
mhm.
people can't do, obviously. And
Yeah.
I think uh I think that drugs, like, is a very blanket term, like
Mm.
for just any type of substance, can kind of like, in my experience, be a way of putting, and obviously without like, because like it can go so wrong in so many ways.
Yeah,
But
of course. It's like anything
um
else.
yeah, but I think that, like, it's things like let's take Adderall. I don't think that there's a person on the planet who should take Adderall every day as a medication, because it's not a medication. I really I just don't think that it can really be. I mean, maybe if you're like narcoleptic and you need to stay awake, but I don't think that there's a person.
I was taking for a while modafinil, so
Oh, okay.
which is I think a much better alternative to something
Yeah.
like Adderall.
I think that they're like modafinil, or even like Vyvanse, like things like that are a little more like, because when like I've taken Adderall, I've taken Vyvanse, I've never taken modafinil, but I mean, you
Yeah,
take those
it's a
things like,
non-stimulant stimulant.
yeah, I know a bit about it, and I know people who have taken it, but like you take something like Adderall and you feel like an entire, like, you feel a peak and then you come down, and it's like it's a drug. That's really all it feels like.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there are other things that like are structured a little more like a medication. But I also think that there is a time and a place for something like Adderall, and I think there's a time when it can be useful.
Mhm.
Just like there's a time when like anything can be useful.
Yeah, like I have to take. Well, I was until my insurance decided it doesn't want to cover that anymore. I was taking modafinil for work during the day because I was working earlier in the mornings, but I have like issues with sleep apnea, but I also have issues with just sleep disorder stuff, and so I don't get enough sleep. And then on top of that, I don't know how familiar you are with this like idea, but there's just theories out there that people that are ADHD, some of them display like this kind of odd form of narcolepsy, and the narcolepsy that I'm talking about, that some people call it, I think the term for it, because it's not like totally official, is theta wave intrusion. And it's this and it happens to me, I feel like all the time. If I'm already, say, tired, right? if uh if I'm doing an activity that I don't find, my brain doesn't find, even if I think it's important that I need to do it, if my brain doesn't find that activity stimulating, um I it goes to sleep. Like I become like a narcoleptic. I literally I intrusively fall asleep. Like I'm like working and I'm like, I gotta get this stuff done. I gotta work. And my brain's just like, no, go to sleep. Just shut down, shut down. And I'll have like mini dreams. Every time I fall asleep, I'll go straight into like a dream state, like a deep sleep. So that's why
Yeah.
they call it theta wave intrusion, because the theta waves are the whole like dream thing. And like, yeah, I'll like knock out for like maybe 10 seconds and I'll have instantly be having like a weird 10-second dream. And I'll kind of like snap out of it and I'll be like, why was I thinking about eating potatoes? Like I was like dreaming about eating a potato. And I like for the 10 seconds. And so I was taking modafinil for that reason, to keep me awake. And so I was able to stay awake and do my job that I need to pay the bills for,
Yeah.
instead of like falling asleep every like 30 minutes, you know?
Yeah. And it wasn't so strong that it would keep you up either.
No, because I would take it in the morning
Yeah.
and it would peak, like you said. And I was just like really concentrated. It didn't just help with the staying awake, it also helped with the red ball syndrome or whatever, shiny red ball. So like I had an easier time just like hyper focusing on things I didn't find stimulating. And it would just let me get my job done or get my stuff done. Or it would help me also with remembering, like it basically was helping me with like executive function stuff.
Yeah. 'Cause
Um
there's a time when your central nervous system needs to be stimulated, and for some people it's more often than others. And I think there are also times when your central nervous system needs to be depressed.
yeah,
And for that reason, I think drugs exist. But
that's
I
why I
also,
like vodka.
yeah, but like I think that you can kind of dance a line between using something medicinally and I think that like nearly anything can be used medicinally. But if you're
Well,
no
not
longer
black
able,
tar heroin,
yeah, I mean, well, yeah,
or you know, or meth. You should probably not use meth
I mean that's
medicinally.
basically Adderall, though.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, you shouldn't
no,
smoke,
I get it. I get it's
but like
Adderall,
taking
but
meth orally is that's basically what Adderall is. I mean,
yeah,
there's certain like yeah, you shouldn't. I don't think there's
you
ever a
won't be
reason.
picking at your skin because of Adderall. I don't think though.
No, you will.
Oh,
It- it-
really?
but I mean, like it's
Interesting.
all about the route of administration. I mean, I've talked
Mm.
to people who've taken like both like prescription Adderall and meth, and like you can take meth orally. You can just like swallow it, and people like meth heads prefer Adderall to meth because of how much better it is. But of
Do they
course, like,
use Adderall to like help,
huh?
like to no, they use methadone, right? For people. I think it's
That's
called
for
meth.
yeah, that's for people like getting off of drugs.
Addicted to
They
meth.
don't really use that much anymore. But no, I mean, like the thing is, I mean, people who abuse a drug like meth, they take it in doses much higher than someone prescribed Adderall would take. But if you take like 4 Adderall, you take 80 milligrams of Adderall, and you're like a meth head, like they prefer that to meth a lot of the time because it's much cleaner.
So we should be giving them Adderall?
No, they should not
I'm
do that.
kidding. I'm kidding. No, I know what you're saying. I know. It all
Yeah,
leads to the problems. Addiction's always bad. There's no time addiction's good.
yeah. But I don't know. I also like. I've never really had like a problem with addiction. Nicotine's the only thing I've been addicted to, and even that I've quit many times. And like,
Some people just have like that ability.
yeah,
Like some people just don't. It's like alcoholism. Like some people can be what like high, very functional alcoholics, right? They could
yeah,
like have hold a job, hold a family, do the whole thing, and then just be like sneaking shots all day
yeah. See,
from a flask.
I feel so much worse like that. Like if I let's say I take Adderall, because that's like something I'll do like once a week to get stuff done.
Mhm.
Uh, like the next day, I don't feel as good as I normally do, and my mindset when I don't feel as good as I normally do isn't to take more of the thing that made me feel like how I felt yesterday. It's to like
Yeah.
get back to normal, and then maybe try that again in like a week.
Well, I mean, my psychiatrist basically told me to take modafinil because I said I refused to take stimulants.
Yeah,
So I didn't want to take Adderall
yeah.
because I already have issues with anxiety.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, yeah, that's just going to skyrocket them. Modafinil didn't do that. And I'm taking Wellbutrin, which kind of messes with anxiety, but because I have a propensity for anxiety, but I'm countering that with some Fluoxetine, Prozac.
I
So
used
it's
to
actually evening out really nicely.
like take a lot of different meds when I was younger, but I don't know if it was like a mindset driven thing. Like I used to take Wellbutrin, I took Zoloft, I took
I
fluvoxamine. I
hated Zoloft.
lot more. I didn't notice anything from any of them, and I think it's because I had the mindset that like I didn't think that any drugs worked on me. I was just like, yeah, these don't do anything. And one day I was just like, I don't want to take these anymore, and I stopped taking them. And I got like physical withdrawal symptoms for like 2 days, but
Brain
since
zaps? Did you get the brain zaps?
yeah, a little bit, but
Oh, I hate brain zaps.
it
They're
was
the
only
worst.
physical withdrawal symptoms. I wasn't like they didn't do anything for me emotionally or mentally. So it wasn't like some people they'll stop taking SSRIs and they actually were helping them. And so even after the physical
Yeah,
withdrawal stopped,
like they help me.
back to how they were. And but like for me, it
Yeah.
was like never like that. I don't think I ever noticed them doing anything. I was like, I felt like my mindset was so strong when I was younger, just like who I was. Like my brain was such a like strong force. It guided everything that I did. I mean,
You're just too much of a Chad or what? Like to be
no,
affected
I don't
by
know. So
SSRIs?
my, my like
What a weird flex, bro.
I don't know. My memory was like really good, and I mean like I'll hear a song once and I'll tell you every single word in it. Good.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I can never do
like,
that.
I kind of would just I would just never forget anything. I'd remember things from when I was 3 like in like picture perfect detail, and I
Mhm.
think that's like part of what made my OCD so bad is that I just remember everything,
Mm,
and I wouldn't be able to forget things I wanted to forget. And
gotcha.
so basically everything I did, like obviously everything everyone does is kind of guided by their brain, but when you forget things, your consciousness feels a little smaller. You're able to like focus a little more on what's in front of you. But my brain was just always like everything at once, and it was, like it was so overwhelming that I didn't even like ever notice any of the drugs they'd constantly put me on. They'd like be like, try this one, and I'd be like, no, I don't know, and like nothing they
And you
did.
would take it for like weeks and it'd just be
Oh yeah,
on
I'd be on it for
consistently.
months, and then I'd just like stop taking it, and then I'd like try like Abilify or like whatever. I just it didn't
Yeah,
do
yeah. Why were they making you take that stuff? If you weren't, were you
anything.
depressed or anxious?
Yeah, I had so many mental health issues as like from
Oh,
like
okay.
the age of like
So
6.
what
Like
cured the OCD? Just did you grow out of it?
I started smoking weed, and then I mean so that's why I say it really revolved around memory. The fact that I never forgot things until like I just started smoking weed, and I just forgot everything. Like it's really bad for your memory, and I was like I
But
was
but even shit out for you because of
but I mean, I
like
not at first. Like, I mean, yes, it did, but I didn't use it in a good way. I was just like smoking weed all day, being like a loser who like could barely even speak because of how high I was all the time.
got it.
And
Got it.
then I kind of like pulled out of it, and I kind of took the best of both worlds, and I was like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
actually useful. This
You've
kind of
done a lot for someone that's 18. You sound
yeah.
like you've been around the world when it comes to this stuff.
Oh yeah, I could yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of I just kind of like learned how to tweak my own mindset
Okay.
and like kind of shape my mental health. That's kind of what I live by is that like I have more control than I used to think over my like I have
Oh,
very
don't
good.
worry, you have decades of pain and suffering ahead of you. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
that's what I'm told.
I'm almost 40. Yeah. Hopefully the internet and the openness of the internet and the ability to gain as much knowledge as of it is available online medically and psychologically and otherwise is helping a lot of younger people get better sooner. So that's my hope. That's kind of part of why I do what I do. So
What do you think the future looks like?
wow, what department am I talking about? Like, because I'm a pessimist, so
Yeah,
I don't know what which part of the future are we talking?
I don't know. How do you think that? Okay, here's a really interesting question. This is
Yeah.
something that my cousin Patrick kind of brought to my attention. He thinks that, and I have to say I agree with him that ADHD, autism, different types of neurodivergent brains
Mhm.
in the probably distant future will kind of diverge into separate subspecies of humans.
No, man, I don't believe that for 1 second.
Really?
Okay, yeah, I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't think autistic people are gonna become new types like in Gundam or something. Like or what do you call it? You know what I think is happening? What I want to happen, but it's probably not going to happen because that's way too optimistic for me. Is I want an increase in metacognition via education or other means that will allow for further sort of openness toward and understanding toward varying types of cognitions so that we can start implementing those cognitive features toward this little thing called human progress. And if that's done, then obviously that would be like the golden age of humanity or whatever, because then you would have like you said, you would have autistic people doing the things that autistic people like to do in the way that they like to do them. And you would have schizos doing things schizos like to do in the way they like to do it. And then you'd have all these like outlier groups coexisting and working together. And neurotypical people with the expanded metacognition would be able to understand the validity of it and the usefulness of it and the kind of, and it would just be basically an understanding that the human brain evolved to be potentially to create abstract thought and to create highly concretized thought. It's capable of doing both, right? Anyone can do one or the other, but it would stand to make sense that some people are born stuck on one side of the dial right off the bat, right? Like they're on one side of that dial by default, but those are going to be the outliers. Most people are kind of floating in the middle somewhere. But floating in the middle makes it a lot harder to move the dial in one direction or another, and you can't keep it there as long. You get tired. It becomes too much. It becomes overwhelming, right? Like a philosopher, if you have somebody that's a philosopher that's neurotypical, they're not going to be in philosopher mode like 24/7, right? That'll probably burn them out. Meanwhile, like a lot of schizo-spectrum people are kind of in philosopher mode 24/7, and it's comfortable, it's intuitive, it's just how I think. It doesn't take mental strain or effort to go there, right? It doesn't require anything. I don't have to meditate to like do this stuff. And so yeah, the hopeful future would be a way for all that to be understood in the scientific community and then to implement that on a practical level on in society, and that would
So
be a
let me get
super
this
cool
straight.
future.
Let me get this straight. You're proposing providing accurate and valid information on mental health and neurodivergent
Yeah, I
people
know. What
to.
if that's why it's foolish optimism.
I
That's
feel like,
that's completely foolish optimism.
I mean, I
Like,
totally agree that I think if that were an understanding, just common knowledge of everyone, that
change everything.
people would probably function and cooperate on a much better level. But also, there's so many things like I feel like everything's
Or maybe even parents would like have an autistic child and they'd actually celebrate because they'd be like, wow, this is really cool. We got one of those rare Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have the shiny.
I feel like it's not always the case, but I feel
No,
like
I know, but
oftentimes
you know what I
people
mean. He can get the weird job.
I feel like oftentimes people who are autistic have parents who have those traits, or vice versa.
Yeah, there's like a lot of schizoids and schizotypals that have like schizophrenic parents and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
and I think
that's
it's not like genetics are probably a part of that, but I also think more than genetics, it's just the fact that your brain is being developed by someone who has a brain that works in a certain way. And
mhm.
if your parents are like Trump supporters, you probably become a Trump supporter. And that's not because it's in the genetics.
Depends.
It's not always, but it's
Well,
generally
you know what
because
might be
people
genetic is your
often follow
propensity to
their parents
rebel or
politically.
to be less agreeable or more agreeable. So, like, if your parents are whatever supporters, you're probably have some disposition to be the kid that just wants to go against whatever your parents believe, and or
Yeah.
be the kid that wants to, support whatever your parents believe because you want to be, liked by them.
I
So,
feel like it's yeah, it depends, but I feel like more often than not that might have not been the greatest example, but generally people unless they rebel tend to adopt the same mindsets as their parents, and if even if they rebel a little bit, that mind like it's kind of stays seeped into your psyche, like no matter what you do, and maybe not necessarily politically. I think that can change quite a bit, but I think a lot of things that your parents teach you kind of get like become a part of you.
like the way you suck with technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way you're raised is really hard to like reverse that. I mean, people are kind of like a product of the trauma that they
In some
live
ways, yes, but I would have to say I would have to disagree on one point. When you're talking about neurodivergent people, that's often not the case at all because um the thing is when a neurodivergent person, and this is part of what I think ties into the schizoid stuff, but I'm not going to get into that. A neurodivergent person has a lot less um intuitive things to mirror in their life, right? So usually people, children developing, they mirror, they replicate, they mimic their environment, the people around them, right? And a lot of these behaviors they're mimicking basically feel pretty intuitive, like it feels right. It feels like it works. And then they fall into it and they do it because it feels correct and it's hitting the right portions of their brain. It's fitting into those social needs and everything else that stimulate and give that little bit of dopamine and everything else. And then you have an autistic kid or a schizo kid. Oftentimes, a lot of schizo kids are diagnosed ADHD as kids because they're not paying attention to the right things. That's what it basically means. They're paying attention. They're just not paying attention to the things that they want them to. And so these kids will see their environment and they'll try to mimic it, and they might be able to, but it's going to feel really unintuitive and tiring and confusing, and they're going to have a lot of questions that aren't going to be answered. And so essentially it gets to a point eventually where the kid is just masking, or that's why autistic masking is such a thing. It's such a problem for a lot of autistic communities. They talk about it constantly, is that they basically mimic the behavior of their peers, and their peers are neurotypical. And so because they don't want other people saying anything and they don't want the attention or the conflict, they hide their stimming. They hide their kind of more intuitive way of speaking, and they replace it with a less intuitive way of speaking. And it has to be a conscious effort. You know what I'm saying? So, and this is like a constant problem. And when that occurs, then the child tends to be incredibly different from the parent in so many ways. Like, I am nothing like my parents. Like, nothing, nothing. Like, so much so that, well, listen, in the case of some people, they're schizoid or whatever, but so much so that sometimes there's no familial connection to their own family, right? So it's just, even if they had like what would be conventionally good parents that tried their best or something, there might be still this disconnect with them on a cognitive level. Like I can't talk to them about the way my brain really works, and they'll be, maybe if they're good parents, they'll listen and they'll try to metacognate and then be understanding and work with you, but they're not really, it's not intuitive for them to get, they just don't get it. Like it's hard, they have to really try to keep up with it or understand it. And that boundary can be incredibly thick. And yeah, you just I don't know a single thing I picked up from my father or my mother. I can't think of it. I mean, they taught me, my mother like taught me certain things. Like she made it very important. Reading was really important. Reading's really important. She was somebody that didn't grow up with much of an education, so she thought, oh, America, I'm Latino, whatever that means. But America, education, land of opportunity, reading in school is really important. And so yeah, to her, that's, she thought like I'm gonna be a good mom and really make sure and support my kids reading. What was funny is I liked reading anyway. So like she would just buy me whatever books I wanted. That's the only thing she would ever never like not want to purchase. Books,
Yeah.
books, books, books.
Yeah, I think that would be, I mean, I think that would be an interesting thing to do a study on, although it would
Mhm.
probably be pretty hard to do a study on that. Just because, I mean,
Yeah,
I
you could do
both
like
of,
a qualitative study,
yeah,
not nothing quantitative.
yeah. I think both of us are using anecdotal experience because I have the opposite experience of that. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know if
Well,
you're
I'm not using anecdotal experience of my just own, right? I'm using the anecdotal experience of, I guess couldn't even tell you how many
like
people.
people you talk to online or people you meet, right? Or
People that send me emails, people that comment
yeah.
on my
But
videos, people that,
that's what I mean by like anecdotal is
oh yeah, of
it's
course.
just
Yeah,
like
no, it's all
personal experience.
anecdotal.
That's how because I'm yeah that I think I'm doing the same thing, but I think we've both just come to different conclusions. But I mean that's how anything works. Okay, also going back to the going let me explain this a little better about the what I was saying about subspecies of human.
That sounds so bananas. I love it.
I,
I mean, I wish it was true. It'd be really cool.
I think I using the word subspecies of humans makes it sound way more like
Science fiction.
yeah than I think it actually is because when you think about a genetic adaptation, it's something that an organism develops to better uh, survive in their environment,
Mhm.
and that's I think exactly what ADHD and like autism are. I think that it makes you better at doing certain things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think when you look at genetic adaptations of humans, it looks very different than what we observe in different animals because humans are really different and really weird. And I think I kind of look at ADHD and autism as genetic adaptations.
Well, I mean, I would agree to some point. Like, okay, so if you want to go that route, this is all just theoretical fun stuff. I have a tendency like to believe in the idea maybe that there's some kind of, because this would require almost like a weird component, almost metaphysical component, because there would be an implication that somehow uh, humans or humanity requires these people to exist, right? So, in order for humanity in and of itself to be able to continue to flourish, in the sense that like if we're talking, and I'm sure you've heard this before, if we're talking, cave dwellers, right? You need your spear sharpeners, and you need your spear chuckers, and you need your surveyors, right? So you need all of that, right? So then when you have the autistic guy that's just really interested in stone formations and how to make the fastest projectile, he's going to make the fastest, most lightweight, most badass spears imaginable, and then all the neurotypicals are going to be like, wow, this guy makes some fucking badass spears, let's use his spears. And he's going to be like, I don't care what you use my spear for, just tell me how fast it went, or like I want to go see how far it goes when you throw it, and or whatever, and I want to figure out how to make it go further and be sharper. And so then you have your schizos that are like, your shamans and stuff, and you have like the guy that's asking the big questions that all the other cave people are just like, oh man, that stuff's scary and confusing. I don't really want to think about it. Let's get that guy to think about it for us. So, and then he's thinking about it for everybody, right? So that, but the issue is, right, you don't want an entire village of shamans. That's probably not going to work out so good. Um, and on a like a just survival level, right? You need these people that are kind of preoccupied with community and reproductive success and things like that. And so then, yeah, I feel like, yeah, we've had people, neurodivergent people have always had a place in society. I think a lot of the modern civilization has kind of pushed us out of those places in many regards, right? So like, I mean, obviously, like, there was like a lot of sort of positions throughout history that people would take up, that would make becoming like a hermit essentially, or becoming somebody disconnected from society, like a good thing, right? Like, so if you became a monk, or if you became a nun, or if you became like somebody that became just fully invested into whatever the mainstream acceptable spiritual matter was, that was considered to be incredibly pious, right? You can go full schizo for go full schizo for the Virgin Mary or whatever during a certain time period, and they would just think you might get dubbed a saint, right? Because you were willing to die or maim yourself in the name of, like, absolution or whatever. And that's what's really interesting when it comes to like the scientific and STEM stuff. I think there's been a lot of autistic people throughout history that have made quite important strides, but sometimes sadly they were what's it called, executed, because they were really, really adamant about what they were saying. Like, no, that's not how this works. It works like this. What? That's heresy. Bye bye.
Yeah.
And but to them it was like, no, this is what it is. This is the thing. It's right here. Look at the thing. It's all there. And they wouldn't, obviously they didn't they couldn't imagine the idea that they would deny it for some like social reason. um and some of them died for that. you know Got guys like Galileo and the such. Like, I think in many ways Da Vinci was like super neurodivergent. Same thing with Van Gogh. He was a total schizo. But and I mean that in the best ways possible. But I don't know, there's always been like a spot for this. And there's no way to prove this, but it feels as if we need to exist in order to cause paradigm shifts, essentially like global civilization wide adaptations
Yeah.
to stuff. It always takes the one crazy guy to change things, right? The one crazy guy who does the crazy things, and then he gets killed for it, and then everyone martyrs him, and then the thing changes. And then a lot of the time what happens, that crazy guy, the things that change don't change the way he was saying to change them. And they kind of just take it upon them, like most neurotypical society kind of just take it upon themselves and go, oh, this is what they meant, let's do this. And then that gets done, right? And then you read their primary sources or whatever, and they're a lot more radical, or they're a lot more like vague in certain departments than people make them out to be, right? They had all these eccentricities outside of just being the genius who wrote the book or did the thing. Nikola Tesla is another example, that if you read his personal writings, he was kind of an out there dude, man. I mean, like, one of the guys who was it the to one of the founders of what eventually became modern rocket science and NASA and everything was a fucking occultist that eventually left because they didn't want him around anymore because he was too weird, even though he was a genius. And then he went to go do stuff with Aleister Crowley, and it's just funny. It's just funny. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much of this stuff. It's wild. But that's what I'm saying. I think there might be a reason these types of humans exist and these outliers exist. Now, whether we're just mutants, I don't know. or there exists for a reason, some like metaphysical reason or something, cool. But either way, I mean, we make things better. Humans make things better if they work together. And they listen to neurodivergent people, and then neurodivergent people listen to neurotypical people about this and that, because they know better about certain things and we know better about other things. It's just that's it's very simple. I just don't understand why it's so complicated. Like there's a bunch of stuff that neurotypical people do better than I do, but there's a bunch of stuff that I do way better than them.
Yeah.
So, or not better, but you know what I mean? Easier.
Yeah. I
Easier.
mean,
It's just easier.
it's what your brain was built to do, as opposed to
Like
trying.
right now, my job that I do, like my actual job, is I write prompts for like AI chatbots and test them. It's like the easy, it's like so intuitive, the work. Like what it's like, oh, think of abstract hypotheticals for the
I'd
chatbot to discuss
be
with
really
you. It's
bad
like,
at that.
okay,
I'd
cool.
be
I could just do
really
that
bad.
all day. Huh?
I'd be really bad at that.
No, I could do that all day, like for me. But I
Uh,
don't know. There'd probably be a thing that there's another capability. Like what's funny about this job is that like it's got a lot of neurodivergent people in it. I'm noticing. And there's different capabilities. Like so there's some people doing specifically math, coding, all this sort of very, very concrete thought stuff. And then there's like sections that are like creative writing, creative visual description, hypotheticals and abstractions. And, all like, I'll see more of the schizo types doing that sort of stuff, right? So they're sitting there coming up with all these like scenarios and wacky stuff, and I'm not doing the math. I'm not doing math or like pattern recognition. Fuck that. I can't do pattern recognition. Like there's no way. Like trying to like create little problems for the chatbot to solve.
See that I could do.
Yeah, I know. Books are autistic. So, you know what I mean? I'm the schizo. You're the
Cool that I do.
autist. That's what's funny. I bet if we talked about dead Kennedys, we'd probably have absolutely different interpretations or fixations on why we like them.
Yeah.
Even music, like I talk to autistic people that are into different kinds of music, and they'll be like really, really into like
One specific band, or like
yeah, it'll be like specific bands, but it also be like very much technical stuff of music.
yeah.
It'll be like chord progression, like all this like stuff, the way that sound itself affects the human brain, and blah blah blah, and like like, and I'll just be like, I just like, I'm all like fixated on lyrics and symbolic representation, how the aesthetic of the music applies to this the theme of the song, and then I'll connect it to all these thoughts and feelings and blah blah blah, and I could talk about one song for like an hour. Like it's just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that too. I've noticed that, like, especially in the way that I think that autistic people listen to music, is it's less of like a hit shuffle on a playlist type thing, and it's more like like really obsess over one artist for like a long amount of time and then just move on.
Like hyper focus on like
Yeah.
specific the
And like
songs
then
and
like, yeah,
everything.
the
Yeah.
song, like every song, every album, getting really interested in like the specific musicians in the band, and like
Like the
research.
whole discography and everything.
Yeah.
And the history of the band
Yeah.
itself. And
Yeah.
yeah, I could give two shits about the bands themselves. Like I swear to God. Like I like, for example, I've listened to like every Nine Inch Nails album like nonstop for over the course of my life. And I know very little about Trent Reznor, except everything I've learned about Trent Reznor through his music.
Hmm.
Like like the version of Trent Reznor that's in my head via his music is the version that I'm like, I like that Trent Reznor, even though he probably doesn't exist.
Oftentimes
Um,
I'm like not even able to interpret music very well unless I like look at someone else's interpretation and base my own interpretation off that and like tweak it a little bit. Like
like, are you talking about like the more like subjective stuff?
yeah, or just like finding a meaning in a certain song. Like I'm often unable to like
But
to
you could recite all the lyrics. You could easily remember the lyrics.
no, I actually I'm really bad at that now. I'm really bad at distinguishing what they're saying unless it's super clear. I really like lyrics. I like lyrics a lot actually. because like I said, I'm kind of almost a little more leveled out now. Like there's specific lyrics where I'll just love them, but oftentimes it's not super ambiguous. They're just things that hit really true to me, I guess.
Cool.
That's kind of like a neurotypical way of liking lyrics, I feel like. It's like, oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, that hits true.
That hits true. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on what's hitting true.
No, yeah, that's true.
You know, like I mean, like there's a bunch of stuff that in lyrics that I'll be like, that hits true or whatever, and then other people be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like you're reading too much into this. I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, I think the song means this, and this word reminds me of this, and it also reminds me of this song, and it also reminds me of this idea about the human experience. And people just be like, it's just a song about like shaking your butt, yo, like chill.
Yeah, no, the ones that hit true for me are the ones that say exactly what they mean, so there's nothing to like interpret.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll find ways to interpret even the ones that are like seemingly obvious. Like it's just so my brain's just silly like that.
You know the band AJJ?
No, is
No,
that some Zoomer band?
I don't, maybe. I mean, I think they made an album like 20 years
Kidding. I
ago.
listen to tons of Zoomer music. Like I'm just
I
being
don't know.
stupid.
It's like kind of like folk punk, but like not really. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. I've never heard of them though.
Really interested in them to
Ah, it
research
sounds
the
cool.
lyrics.
I love it hearing new stuff, so it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. No, lyrics are really cool. I
I feel like we meandered like completely away from
Yeah.
everything.
No,
You're
I
just
don't
really
perform
tired.
well in conversations like this late at night. What time do you wake up normally?
I don't know, like 7.
Okay, but you also probably sleep less than me, I'm sure.
Mm, I don't know. How much do you sleep?
So I mean, like I have like a schedule. Obviously, I'm autistic. I go to bed at 10 and I wake up at like 6, and I I my like circadian rhythm is so autistic. Like I'll start to get tired at like maybe around 6, and then
Mhm.
I'll start to get really tired at like 8, and then I'll start to get like really tired, like I'm ready for sleep at 10, and I don't like stay up later than I should.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty. I
I'm supposed
read
to go
you.
to
That's
bed.
pretty common. Most autistic people, I'm cool with. Like, they have very set sleep schedules usually. It's like I go meanies at 10,
It's not hard for me to sleep like if I know it's the time I'm supposed to sleep. Now if it's 9, it's like really hard to sleep.
even if you're really tired.
I mean, if I'm tired, that's different. But the only reason I'd be tired is if I stayed up really late the night before.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, does it also keep you from sleeping before your sleep time?
I mean, yeah, unless because I can't really sleep unless it's 14 hours after I woke up usually. But usually I'll be
What are we even talking about anymore? I
yeah, I
love
don't
it.
even know. I'm
Like,
tired.
okay, is there anything you wanted to tackle before we end this? Because is there
Oh,
anything that you
please.
don't? Yeah, I don't want you to feel like you're gonna like leave here and just go like, ah, damn, I didn't ask him the thing.
I
I
don't
didn't
think
ask him
so.
that thing that I wanted to ask. I wanted to bring up that thing.
I don't think so. I'd probably be a lot more talkative, like I said, if it was earlier. But like I think everything was good. I was mainly just interested in hearing you talk, and I think this is going to be one of those episodes that I just like listen over afterwards because I think you said a lot of interesting things, some of which probably slipped over my head because I was tired.
Okay, well, have fun re-listening to it.
I will.
And you said I could go ahead and you said
Oh
it's
yeah,
cool to
totally.
upload this.
Yeah,
All right, sounds good. I don't know how long we went. I think we went for
went
looks
over an
like
hour.
about a little over an hour 15 minutes. All right, man. Well, if you're done with me here today, go ahead. Can I shill really quick? Oh wait a minute. You're not uploading this anywhere. Never mind.
Yeah,
I
you
forgot.
uploaded
This is for
it.
your project thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have to shill because it's gonna be on my channel. But
So what's
hopefully, there you go, man. You're gonna be uh YouTube unknown famous because I have a very small channel and nobody watches it. So
wait? What's chill?
shit. Oh, like shit. It's like well, the real there's like a meme way to use it, and then there's like a real way. Shilling is usually referring to people that are like promoting stuff for money, not because they actually care about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're just saying like it's kind of like being like, oh, use this product, it's so great, I love it, and like they're
Yeah.
full of shit. They don't even care about it. Um, but no. So the joke, I'll use just like say I'm gonna shill my channel because I'm just
Yeah.
I'm a big shill.
I mean, I
So
might end up posting some of these podcast episodes, but I don't think I'd ever gain track. Like I think I'd have less followers than you.
well, yeah, nobody can have less than me. It's tiny.
I don't know.
But no,
You've
I'm
got like
kidding.
what, like 1,000? That's probably gonna be like
Nah, I like 30. I think
350.
it's like 30, 33 or 3,400 right now or something. It's
Yeah,
like it's nothing crazy.
probably like
It's a very niche
300.
topic,
I'll
so
get it. Yeah.
no, but you should do it, man. Upload your stuff. You're like you freaking
I
18,
have
man.
I have really slow internet.
Why?
Because I live like in a pretty rural area, and
Yeah, you need to get out of there, bud. Unless,
yeah,
I mean, unless you just,
like
you don't
I
care
don't know
about it.
even
Huh?
how long it would take. I mean, I don't really use the internet that much, but I don't know how long it would take to upload like an hour long video. Right, the second podcast I did, I have a video recording of it on my phone,
Hmm.
and I can't send it anywhere. I don't even know what to do with it because of how massive it is. Like I've tried uploading it to my Google Drive. Like I don't. I'm
Wait,
really
you can't
bad.
upload it to Google Drive?
I think it like I probably could if I went somewhere else. I just like I could not figure out how it worked. I'm super bad with
This
technology.
guy, man. You're 18. You're bad at technology
Like
already.
the way I approach technology is if something doesn't work, I just try random things until it does, and most of the time it doesn't work, and then like I'll try to look it up, but I usually just quit, and I'll just be like I don't need to do that. Like it's not necessary for my survival.
It might be. It might eventually. All right. Well, thanks a lot, man, for
Yeah,
this. I really appreciated it.
if you send me your email, I'll forward that document to you.
Or you can just like send it to me on Discord.
Can,
Yeah.
can you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on.
Oh,
Stop recording now.
yeah.